Shalom Aleichem and welcome. We're learning the Sicha of Zachor in Chelik Chaf Aleph. And this Sicha is based on two Fabrengens that the Rebbe had on Shabbos Pasha Zachor in 1970, Tavshin Lamed, and 1973, Tavshin Lamed Gimel. So let's go into those Sichas and the original Fabrengens and see if we could dig up a few nuggets and insights that didn't make it into the Torah Shebechsav, into the written version that we read in the Sichas, and see if it can offer us some extra insight. So here we go. Shabbos Parshas Vayikra. Let's actually start with Tavshin Lamed. Okay. So at the Fabrengens, Shabbos Parshas Vayikra, the Rebbe explained the idea of the special takana of reading Parsha Zachor. The Rebbe says that's a special kli of the Shabbos, which the Shabbos is even referred to as Shabbos Zachor. There's besides the fact that every parsha has its kriyas HaTorah, like Moshe Rabbeinu set up and Ezra established, which means that even in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, there were things that were not a mitzvah saseh, but were takanas, because Moshe established it wasn't a mitzvah saseh. It was establishment of Moshe, that they should not spend 3 days without listening Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu established it on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos, and Ezra added Shabbos afternoon. And according to some poskim, the chiyuv is min ha-Torah, the parsha of Zachor. And the Rebbe added, even though there are days that even that Parshas Parah is also min ha-Torah, and some opinions hold that all the four parshas, Shkalim and Chodesh as well, are min ha-Torah. But the accepted opinion is that only Zachor is min ha-Torah. We learn Parshas Zachor, we read Parshas Zachor, Schiras Ma'aseh Amalek, even though there's other things that need to be remembered at all times and all places, like Matan Torah and Maseh Egel. And the Rebbe on that said that Matan Torah and Maseh Egel are the two kavim, the two ways of Aseh Tov, Matan Torah and Surmeda, Maseh Egel, which are connected, interdependent of one another. And the pashas simply so that in order for a yid to have chayis amitis, which is Torah mitzvahs, chem chayin v'yechamenu b'chay behem, you need to have, and that's the positive, that's the Aseh Tov. You need to be careful of all the things that are going to take away energy and life. Surmeda. Fine. Then the Rebbe continued and spoke about also the mitzvah of Shabbos, that you have to remember Shabbos. And the Rebbe went and explained that Shabbos is payal on all the days of the week. As we know that when a person only is living a weekday life, secular, not secular as in Friday, but secular as in not Shabbosdik, avachadik 11, so then he doesn't have a kach in his effort and his work. But if he knows that everything is just a preparation for Shabbos, then the whole week is with a lebedikite. And even the weekdays become Shabbos dikah. That just like, what does it mean that Shabbos dikah? That just like Shabbos is, you're prohibited from doing work. Even weekday things, and you have to keep yourself busy with just Torah, Tefillah, and Yiddishkeit. So this Shabbos makes sure that even in the weekday, you should be able to updice and you should be able to cut yourself out of chul, of week, and dedicate times for Shabbos. What's Shabbos? Torah and davening. Fine. So the Rebbe started explaining what's unique about Schiras Hamalek, which seemingly is not negeya to our time. He says because first and foremost you need to have mechias Amalek in your nefesh. And the Rebbe said they're very interesting, because you cannot fight with somebody outside of you as long as you have a war inside of you. Only after you erase the mechias, you do Amalek, you erase the Amalek inside of you, and Hashem's name becomes complete in your nefesh, in your home, in your surrounding, then you could do mechias Amalek outside of you, which in general is a great lesson in life. You know, many of us trying to go save the world, but we can't get our own house in order. So erasing Amalek, which is the idea of negating Shleimus Hashem, and therefore Hashem's name is not complete till Amalek is erased. And what's Amalek's issue? He goes against, he opposes the Vavke. And the Rebbe says, by the way, that's why you need Schiras Ma'aseh Amalek every day by Kriyas Shema. When you say L'Shimcha Agadol and Avas Olam, you have a mind of Amalek. What does it mean in Nefesh Adam? That because Nefesh Adam also has the four letters of Shem Havaya. That Amalek is not negating Chachma Bina Ka, but it's negating Midas Maisa Vavke. that he doesn't want that the Yediyas Likus should be infiltrate into Machshava Dibur the Maisa, into Midas and Machshava Dibur the Maisa B'Poel Mamash. They've explained what's the idea of Chachma Bina. Yud is Nakuda. Chachma is a famous thing we know Chassidus. But the tachlis is that it shouldn't be a Nakuda, but you come into Hay to expand, etc., into your life. And the famous thing that Chassidus explains: how do we know that Amalek doesn't like that the mind affects the heart? Because Amalek is from the word malak, which is cutting off the neck. Vil uphak in the cup. He wants to separate the head. That shouldn't affect the heart, and definitely not action. And definitely doesn't want Poel Mamish, and that's why Amalek says that even if you understand the greatness of Hashem, don't get too emotional, don't get too excited. It's not connected to you. What relationship do you have with Hashem? You're a little piece of nothing. Hashem doesn't care what you do. If you put on tzitzis, you put on tefillin, you keep Shabbos. He's very high. Doesn't have any occupation with this world. You have to know that that's Amalek. The Amalek comes by Yaveh Amalek. He comes to a Yid. He comes on its own. And he puts himself in. No one asked him. He wasn't invited. Nobody was bothering him, and he wants to cool you off. And therefore, you have to do everything you can to fight against him. And that's the correct hachana to Matan Torah. And that's why when Yisrael heard, what did he hear? He heard Kiyas Yamsuf Mechamas Amalek. Because Mechamas Amalek is the hachana to Matan Torah. That through that you remove the Taina Malachim. Because Malachim want that the Torah should be in heaven. But the Chiddush of Matan Torah is Leiba Shemaimi. Dafka Lamata. It shouldn't be B'dachnis, but it should be B'Poel Mamash. Fine. So that was Tafshin Lamed. And the Rebbe actually said a Maimah right after that. Zachor Asher Asalacha Amalek. Continue. So, in Tafshin Lamed Gimel, that was spoke about Parsha Zachor. Parsha Zachor is a one of the four Parshias, etc. And even though we know there's something special about Parsha Shkolim over all the other Parshas, as Rebbe explained, because Parsha Shkolim is Machzis HaShekel, and that's the idea of the whole year. All the Karbanis lived off the Machzis HaShekel twice a day. You had the Karban Tamid, but nevertheless, Parsha Zachor has something that Parsha Shkolim doesn't have. Because even after Parsha Shkolim, you're still lacking something, and that is completed by Zachor. And what is that? You see that the Poel Mamash Zachor is a mitzvah saseh min HaTorah, which you don't find in other parshas. And what is that unique about Zachor? That's what you explained. The idea of that you have to forget Amalek, etc. Then the Rebbe continued in the Sicha that we just learned the difference between mitzvah min HaTorah, mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Mitzvah min HaTorah is dafke the you focus on the ability to change the world. Mitzvah d'Rabbanan is you focus on the idea that the Gavra can do the Tzivah Hashem. So one's focused on the Chepsa, one's focused on the Gavra. And explain the idea of Zachor Shascha Amalek. Even in the time that you don't have Amalek, you could do a Mechias Amalek She B'Nefesh. Not only one day a year, as the Rebbe says in Kriya Pash Zachor, but every single day, Schis Ma'as Amalek Mitzvah every single day. And even according to the people that say that you do the mitzvah by hearing it once, it's clear that every time you mention Ma'as Amalek, you're doing a mitzvah say min HaTorah. For example, it says you have to build a gate on your roof, even though you don't have a chiyuv to build a house, so that you could build a gate on the roof. But when you build a house, you do the mitzvah of Sisa Ma'akalegacha. So too, whenever you bring it up. Okay. So then this part was the idea of Mechias Amalek She B'Nefesh was included in a Sicha. But then the Rebbe continues and says like this. In this idea of Amalek, we see the incredible chashivas of every Yid. Every Yid's like Klal Yisrael. And therefore he's connected with the whole world. What we see in the Mishnah, a person was born, each one of us was born as individuals to show that, that Adam Harishon was born as one individual, to show you that one person can create the whole world. Whoever keeps one person alive, you keep the whole. It's like you kept the whole world alive, etc. And therefore, you have to say V'shvili nivda olam. Now, it doesn't only mean that every yid is a full world, every person, but rather it means because you're a full world, everything that's going on, whatever you do affects the whole world. We see in halacha, we see in nigla, etc. That the Rambam says a person has to see that the whole world is unbalanced, and your effect can do something that could change the world. And what's the explanation? Because every yid is Olam Maleh, and he has within him the entire part of Klal Yisrael. So therefore, because the whole world is Tali Klal Yisrael, it's also dependent on every single one of us. And this is the answer to people that say that Yid comes and says a mitzvah is hard. And not only is it in his imagination, it could be taka hard. He spoke to somebody who's not biased, and the guy says it's really hard. Is it really worth it to go through so much for one mitzvah? But the answer is you're affecting the whole world. And when you make a cheshbon tzedek, you'll realize that you're able to change the whole world. And because it's so important, therefore, Zachor, you have to make sure to remember Amalek and to break it, Mechias Amalek. Now, to add, we know what the Baal Shem Tov says, that just like an Am Yisrael had 42 masois, travels, journeys in the Midbar, so too we all have 42 journeys. And therefore, each one of us has to have Yitzias Mitzrayim, because each one of us has it literally in our lives. And just like by Klal Yisrael, when they left Mitzrayim, they had Amalek, so too in the Avodah Duchnis of every single one of us, after you try to get out of Mitzrayim, and you break out of your own limitations, Amalek could show up, Asher Karcha. And therefore you have to have Zachor Zachor Amalek constantly, to make sure that Amalek has no effect, because it's a mitzvah in Torah which affects this world. So this mitzvah in Torah affects that not only will you be careful of Amalek, but literally you could remove Amalek. Even though in the physical world, Mechias Amalek never happened entirely. But the Amalek Sheba Nefesh, you can accomplish Zachor Zachor Amalek. And from here is understood, even when you want to work with somebody else, when you meet a Yid who still needs to remove the Amalek outside of him, you have to talk to him about Zachor. Just like you have to talk to him about Enriching, which is the beginning of everything, you also have to talk to him about Zachor, to make sure that he's not cooled off, to kindle the fire within him, because every Yid has a spark, and you have to just flame the spark. It should become a big fire that burns up physicality, rather materialism, that all that's left is physical. In other words, remove the chumnius, that only gashmius is left, and then the gashmius, you can turn into the chumnius. Chumnius, you can't turn into gashmius. Materialism, but physical you can, and like the Alter Rebbe says, that the Eibishter gives us kashmis, and we could make it ruchnius. Seems to be that there was a little more nekuda that the Rebbe went on, but that's not in the Fabrengens. But these are the two Fabrengens that literally made up this beautiful Sicha, which is a foundational Sicha, and really what Amalek is, etc.